Good Wednesday morning, friends, or afternoon, or evening, or whenever you happen to join. For those that I don't know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Finley, our Momentum and Discipleship Pastor at First United Methodist Church here in Kirksville, Missouri. And this is our midweek time to pause together, to reflect on our faith. And as you can see on this particular Wednesday morning here in Kirksville, it's actually surprisingly breezy. It's going to be a hot one, but here in the shade, it's nice and cool and wonderfully relaxing. And I'm grateful to be able to have this time with you today as we have each week. To take a deep breath, to pause in the middle of whatever is happening in our weeks, and to ask together that question about how it is that God is meeting us where we are right now. Where are we experiencing God's presence? How and where is God meeting us in the swirl of life? And as I've been thinking about that question for myself this morning, I've been thinking about expectations. This is about the point in the summer. Well, that's lovely. I'm going to pause there just for a moment and let us hear the church bells, because I just love that sound. This is about the point in the summer where I realized that I've had expectations of the summer. Some of which maybe I had said out loud, and maybe some I maybe hadn't acknowledged to myself. I realized that perhaps I had some expectations this summer of relaxed sitting on the porch and long cups of coffee and conversations with friends and relaxed times of porch sitting and lingering over meals. And some of that has happened. But I also realized that I have those expectations every summer, and sometimes they are met and sometimes they aren't. I'm wondering if many of us have had expectations of this summer, thinking that it might be the summer where we have some relaxed time after 2 intense summers in COVID times, or it might be the summer where we pick back up the projects and the practices and the habits and the vacations that we put down as COVID times started, and perhaps we had expectations that we would pick back up exactly where we left off. And of course we know that we aren't exactly the same people as we were in those before times, and that means that anything we do this summer won't exactly meet those same expectations we had of ourselves or others or our world a few years ago. And so I'm wondering, what have been your spoken and unspoken expectations of this summer? Some of those are within our control to meet, and some of them aren't. I've been talking with several of you, several folks I know who are here local and spread across the country, and almost everyone has said something along the lines of, I had thought this summer would be less intense. We've had intensity in ways that perhaps we didn't expect. Perhaps some of us had hoped for low-key summers, relaxing with friends and family, and we've done some of that. But perhaps some of those haven't met our expectations in the same kind of ways. And so I'm wondering this morning, if you were to make a list, to write down what you expected as you headed into this summer. Now, the summer is not quite over. I know that very well. But those of us who live on academic calendar rhythms, whether we have children in school or we work within institutions that live on those rhythms, know well, even just in general, the rhythm of Kirksville knows well that we come towards the end of July and we all start thinking, oh, the summer, it's almost over. So maybe it makes sense that we're starting to think about the ways in which the summer has given us amazing gifts, and maybe the ways in which the summer has disappointed us or challenged us. And I've been wondering, where does God meet us? How does God meet us? Right in the midst of expectations that have been met and ones that we're maybe having to let go of for this summer? How does God meet us in the midst of a summer that for many folks, for all kinds of reasons, has felt more intense than perhaps we were planning? And so I wonder, how is it that God meets us right there? Because I do indeed believe God meets us individually and collectively right where we are. And as I was trying to answer that question for myself, I returned to a book that I've used before called Praying Our Goodbyes. Now that seems a little strange because it doesn't seem that maybe this is a goodbye. But this process of God meeting us as we open our hands, as we acknowledge the expectations we've had of ourselves, of each other, of our world, even of God, that perhaps have felt like they haven't happened this summer, or maybe happened in different ways than we were planning. That in its own way is a goodbye. And so what do we do when we need to acknowledge those? We come into a time of prayer, and so I offer this time of prayer to you, if you need it, along with me. The idea is to open our hands, or to have an image in our mind of open hands. God of mystery, we turn our hearts to you. We come before you in need of peace, grateful for the mystery of life, and ever keenly aware of your promises of guidance. We want to place our trust in you, but our hearts are fearful and anxious. We forget so easily that you will be with us in all that we experience, in all of our expectations. Teach us patience with the transformations and changes of life, and to be open to the changes we are experiencing. And then there's this beautiful passage from Psalms. This I believe, I shall see goodness of Yahweh, of God, in the land of the living. Put your hope in Yahweh, be strong, let your heart be bold. Put your heart in God. And from Psalm 52, I, for my part, like an olive tree growing in the house of God, put my trust in God's love forever and ever and ever, because, friends, God loves, endures forever, and meets us in the midst of it all. And this closing prayer that caught my attention. God in whom we trust. There are parts of us that resist letting go. I want to have an open hand attitude toward you and toward my life, but it is such a struggle to do so. Remind us often of the peace which you extend to me. Thank you for your beloved Son, who gave us an example of trusting in you. Renew us day by day. Encourage us so that we may always be faithful to your deep call within our hearts. We open ourselves to the mystery of life and to your love. Friends, as I open my hands with you, I hold in them the expectations I had for this particular season, this summer. Perhaps you hold in your hands expectations you had for this summer, or maybe simply the season of life that you're in that has been different than what you expected or were planned. As we have our open hands, I invite you to imagine a circle of open hands, all of us together, with God dwelling within and moving throughout our circle. For we are not alone. Go in peace, my friends. Amen.